The year was 2045, and Earth was on the brink of a new era. Humanity had set its sights on Mars, and after decades of planning, the first human colony was established. The world watched as the first astronauts landed on the red planet, bringing with them hopes and dreams of a new frontier. But no one expected what they would find. The crew aboard the Mars exploration vessel, MEV-7, consisted of 4 astronauts: Captain Sarah Jensen, a seasoned space explorer; Dr. Elias Knight, a brilliant scientist specializing in extraterrestrial life; Lieutenant Max Harlow, a former military officer; and Dr. Claire Williams, an expert in geology. Together, they were tasked with setting up the colony and searching for signs of life, past or present. The first few months were routine. The team established their base camp, set up scientific instruments, and began exploring the surrounding terrain. They found evidence of ancient water channels, fossilized microorganisms, and traces of organic compounds. The discoveries were thrilling, but nothing that hinted at intelligent life. Or so they thought. One morning, while surveying a remote section of the planet's surface, Dr. Knight's team picked up an anomaly. The sensors detected an unusual signal coming from deep beneath the Martian surface, something they couldn't explain. It wasn't the natural radioactivity of the planet or even solar interference. This signal was structured, deliberate, almost like a message. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Knight's voice crackled over the comms. "We've found something." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. They had been exploring Mars for months, and this was the first time anything like this had happened. They quickly gathered their equipment and headed to the coordinates provided by Dr. Knight. The closer they got to the source of the signal, the more intense it became. The signal seemed to be getting stronger, almost as if it was reaching out to them. When they finally arrived at the site, they found something astonishing: a large metallic structure, partially buried under the surface. It wasn't natural, it was clearly man-made, or at least, it looked like it was. The structure was smooth, with strange markings etched into its surface. It resembled a door of some sort, but unlike anything they had ever seen. "Is this a relic of some kind?" Lieutenant Harlow asked, his voice trembling. "We don't know yet," Sarah replied, her own voice filled with awe. "But we're about to find out." They carefully began to excavate the area around the structure, unsure of what they might uncover. As they dug, they discovered more of the door, revealing a series of ancient symbols. The more they uncovered, the more it seemed like a message, something meant for someone to find. It took hours to fully expose the structure, but when they finally did, the crew was left speechless. The door was large, towering over them, and made of a material that was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was smooth, metallic, and pulsed with an eerie glow. The symbols were unlike any known language, but there was no mistaking the significance. This was not a natural formation. This was an artifact, and it was waiting to be opened. The signal was now a constant hum in their ears, drawing them closer. Dr. Knight's eyes gleamed with excitement. "This is it," he whispered. "This is what we've been searching for." Sarah turned to her team, all of them feeling the weight of the moment. "Let's open it." Opening the door was not as simple as they had hoped. The structure seemed to respond to their presence, almost as if it was alive. At first, they tried to pry it open manually, but it didn't budge. Then, Dr. Knight suggested they try using their communications equipment to transmit a signal back to the object. He believed the door was waiting for something, a trigger, perhaps. It took several attempts, but finally, the door seemed to react. A low hum filled the air, and the surface of the structure began to shift, revealing intricate patterns of light. Slowly, almost reluctantly, the door began to open, revealing a dark chamber inside. As the door slid open, a rush of cold air escaped, sending a chill down their spines. The darkness inside seemed to stretch endlessly. But there was something else, something moving within. Max was the first to speak. "What the hell is that?" In the dim light, they could just make out the faint outlines of shapes, dozens, maybe hundreds of them. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped closer to the entrance, her flashlight flickering. The shapes in the dark were humanoid in form, but their features were obscured by the shadows. "Be careful," Sarah warned, her voice barely above a whisper. "We don't know what's inside." They cautiously stepped into the chamber, their footsteps echoing through the vast space. The walls were lined with strange symbols, similar to those on the door. The floor was covered with dust, but there were marks in the dust, as though something had moved across it recently. Dr. Williams bent down to examine the markings. This looks like a trail, she said, pointing to the ground. But what left it? Suddenly, a low, resonant sound filled the chamber. It was a deep, vibrating hum, like a heartbeat. The team froze. The sound seemed to be coming from the far end of the chamber, and as they moved toward it, they saw it, a large, glowing object, suspended in midair. It was pulsing with energy, and the closer they got, the more it seemed to call to them. Before they could investigate further, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. Something large and heavy hit the ground, causing the team to jump back in alarm. They turned to see a figure stumbling from the shadows, a human figure, but barely recognizable. The man was thin, gaunt, his skin pale and stretched tight over his bones. His eyes were wide with fear, and as he looked at them, he whispered, "You have to leave. It's awake. It's hungry." The figure collapsed before them, barely conscious. Sarah rushed forward to help him, but Dr. Knight stopped her. "Wait," he said, his voice tense. "We don't know if he's hostile." The man's eyes fluttered open, and he looked up at Sarah. "You have no idea what you've unleashed," he gasped, his voice ragged. "I was part of the first mission here. We found it. We thought it was dormant, harmless. But it was waiting." "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, kneeling beside him. "My name is Marcus Lowe," he said, his voice weak. "I was part of a team that came here decades ago. We found this place. We thought we were alone, that we were the first. But we weren't. We awoke something. Something ancient." He coughed, and Dr. Williams stepped forward, offering him water. "What is it?" she asked, her voice trembling. "It's a parasite," Marcus whispered. "It feeds off energy, off life itself. It's been here for millions of years, lying dormant, waiting for a signal. And you," he pointed a shaking finger at them, "you've given it the signal it needed." Suddenly, the chamber began to shake, and the pulsing object started to glow brighter. The walls trembled, and the sound of 1,000 voices filled the air. The creature, the parasite, was waking up. "We have to stop it," Marcus gasped, trying to stand. "It's too late to leave now." The team scrambled to figure out what to do, but the realization was clear: there was no easy way out. The parasite was alive, and it was hungry. They had unknowingly triggered its awakening, and now it was reaching out to consume everything in its path. The team had to find a way to stop it, before it spread beyond Mars, before it reached Earth. As they fought to contain the creature, they realized the truth: they weren't just explorers. They were the unwitting cause of a potential extinction event. The consequences of their actions were beyond anything they could have imagined. This story raises ethical questions about exploration and responsibility. It explores the consequences of humanity's desire to push boundaries without fully understanding the risks involved. The encounter with an ancient alien parasite illustrates the dangers of tampering with forces we don't comprehend. It emphasizes the need for caution, respect for the unknown, and the moral obligation to consider the broader impact of our actions, not just for ourselves, but for the future of all life.